Being a cycling journalist, I've travelled all over Europe to cover races, but this year, 3 of the biggest are coming to the UK. The Giro d'Italia starts in Belfast in May, Leeds plays host to the Tour de France Grand Départ in July, and Glasgow will host the Commonwealth Games shortly after. It really is set to be an unprecedented summer of cycling in the UK. I want to visit all 3 host cities to find out how anticipation for these historic events is building. I've got a tough schedule ahead of me though, because I want to visit all 3 cities in 3 days. First up, I'm catching the overnight ferry from Liverpool to Belfast for a day in the Northern Ireland capital before catching the boat back. From Liverpool, I'm heading to Leeds to check out the Tour de France Grand Départ. After Yorkshire, I'm heading north, further up to Glasgow to check out the cycling venues for the Commonwealth Games. So here we are, it's the start of our big adventure. We're going around the UK, but we're starting here in Belfast, outside the Titanic Museum, which is the centrepiece of the Titanic Quarter, and it's also going to be the start of the Giro d'Italia 2014. 22 teams will set off from here. They're going to head east out towards Stormont before turning back into the centre of town. We're going to get the bike out and we're going to go and see what the city has to offer. We've headed out east to the Parliament buildings at Stormont. It's a magnificent day. I'm joined by Norman, who's going to tell us a little bit about how cycling can give visitors a unique perspective of this amazing city.
I think at first people didn't really understand how big an event this is. The whole circus that goes with it. It's going to be shown on television in 168 countries. But they'll see the beautiful scenery, the heritage and the history of a country that used to be associated with trouble and now is becoming a popular tourism destination. In the areas where the Giro is going to go, you could sense that the councils were really getting involved, the local people were beginning to get involved. Lots of pink around the place, and I know several people who are, there's one bike shop that's actually selling a pink bike for the Giro and things like that.
The whole route of this prologue, does it pass quite a lot of sort of Belfast's culture and history?
The Newtownards Road is the first part of the first day of the Giro. It was the industrial heartland of Belfast in terms of the shipbuilding industry. And you'll notice some of the murals are representing the history of shipbuilding in the area, and some of them certainly representing more recent political divide. In many ways they give a true representation of the history of Belfast.
I'm leaving the team time trial route because I want to find out about a little known piece of incredible cycling history that was played out in the city. And I'm about to meet a man who's going to tell me about a very important bicycle race that happened 125 years ago over there, which is now some houses and used to be a cricket ground.
Yeah, well, the Giro d'Italia is coming in the middle of May. About 125 years ago, probably a more important bike race took place, a world's first in Belfast, where for the first time ever a pneumatic tyre filled with air was raced in a public bike race. John Boyd Dunlop, now famous for the Dunlop Tyre Company, made the tyre in Belfast, and it was raced by Willie Hume, who lived just across the river here in East Belfast. And Willie wasn't the fastest rider in the race at all. The other riders were in penny farthings, with just a solid rubber tyre, and Willie Hume went on to win all 4 races. And that was the start of a cycling revolution, because up till then women didn't cycle. Penny farthings were too hard to get onto. So after this race, and over the next 10 years, women started cycling, children started cycling.
And what's the Giro doing to celebrate John Dunlop's invention?
Lord Mayor of Belfast is going to unveil a plaque to celebrate this. There's not that much else planned, unfortunately, sadly. It's a story that Belfast hasn't really got excited about yet. So hopefully, with the publicity around the Giro, maybe in years to come, you know, we'll have John Boyd Dunlop, Willie Hume cycling festivals. Just behind you, Sam, there's plans for a bridge over the River Lagan, a cycle and pedestrian bridge, which will open in 2 years' time. And maybe a legacy for that, this could be called the Hume Dunlop Cycle Bridge. From cycling's distant past back to the present, I'm heading to West Belfast to meet Paul Slane, 2-time Irish national champion and now owner of Slane Cycles. He's bringing in an extra special piece of Giro d'Italia memorabilia to mark the great race's arrival.
Because this year is the Giro is actually paid a tribute to Pantani, and we have actually got Pantani's bike here that he used, so that actually people from all over the world can come into the shop here and actually look at it and admire it and touch it and see the bike that Pantani used to win the Giro.
What do you hope it does for grassroots racing? Do you think it'll encourage more kids onto bikes to go out and try the competitive side of the sport?
Well, when children see the spectacle, because it's not just a bike race, the caravans that come along, the advertising that's been given, the free, they say, bottles and pens and things like this, which the children will actually go crazy for. The adults will look at the bike ride, but the children will go crazy for the bottles. It will draw them in years to come, leave a lasting legacy where the numbers in cycling will actually increase here.
Our day in Belfast is nearly over, but before catching the ferry back to the mainland, we've time for a quick bite to eat with Stephen Gallagher. He's an ex-pro who's been at the heart of the city's quest to host the Giro. Where else could we meet but at Coppi, named after the Giro's greatest champion, who won the race an unprecedented 5 times in the 1940s and 50s.
On stage 2 we're taking in obviously the north coast, the spectacular sort of Giant's Causeway going up through sort of Antrim, Ballymena, with the King of the Mountains coming out of Ballycastle as well. Stage 3 starting in Armagh before it finishes in Dublin. And Armagh being the religious capital of Ireland, having that Gothic and very historical presence about it will bring a different dynamic to the race.
Sure. Crossing the border from Northern Ireland into Ireland is symbolic, and really meaningful for the race as well. Was it important to the organisers that there was that show of unity across the island?
There was always that, need, I suppose, to show Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland and the like that there is that transparency, there is that cooperation. Cycling being the sport that it is, that it's not played in a stadium. Cycling is a sport that's free for people to watch. It's a sport that people are able to go and see, and it's not, it's in the communities and it's brought to you. It's probably one of the best way you could finish the race off before it head back to Italy.
Stephen, thanks very much. Right, we've got a ferry to catch, so we're going to grab a quick bite to eat, and then it's off to Yorkshire tomorrow.
With the Tour de France coming to Yorkshire, it's just immense.
Somebody is painting sheep.